Hello and welcome to another edition of At the Edge of It All. Today joining us is Steve Lavin. He is the head coach for men's basketball here at the University of San Diego. Steve, thanks for being with us.
It's great to be with you.
This is your first time on the podcast, and so this is really an opportunity for everybody at home to get to know more about you, the man behind the team, the head coach, learn a little bit about how your seasons have been going, but also get to know how you got interested in basketball, how you got to where you are today here at the University of San Diego. So I'd love to go back, dive a little bit backwards and learn why basketball? What got you interested in this sport and being the head coach of a team now?
Well, I grew up in a large family. I'm the youngest of 6 children. And my father played basketball on the high school level in San Francisco and also on the college level at the University of San Francisco. And he was an educator, a teacher, philosophy and English and literature. And so I think, his influence in terms of teaching. My mother, who studied art history, obviously raised the 6 of us, and then went back and worked in human resources and had a 25-year career with Wells Fargo and Southern Pacific and some corporations. They were both outstanding teachers, and I think the love of the sport came from my father's love of basketball and my older brothers. I had 3 older brothers that played at different levels of basketball. So I think as the youngest, you're looking up to your dad and your brothers. And so that played a big part. I was late to basketball of all the siblings. I loved soccer, I loved baseball, and then I really focused in on basketball in junior high school and then through high school. And we had great success. The program that I played for, Sir Francis Drake High School, which is now renamed Archie Williams High School in Northern California, had tradition there. And so going to the games, with all the pageantry and watching my older brothers play on Friday nights up there played a part, I think, in terms of inspiring me. But playing in summer basketball camps as well, where you're meeting a lot of friends and you're learning the game. And I think, it helped build confidence. I struggled some in school. I had dyslexia and dysgraphia as a child. And I think sports was an outlet and a realm that allowed me to build some self-esteem and confidence, and that helped in terms of having the opportunity to thrive in high school and then college, and then ultimately being able to transition from college into coaching just seemed like a natural.
So you take basketball all the way to college. What was it like playing in college? And then you said you transitioned into coaching. How did you decide that I'm going to go into coaching after playing basketball? Did you ever think you might go pro, or you wanted to do that, or what was that transition like?
Yeah, I was realistic, even though I was on successful teams, and was grateful just to be participating as a member of a team. And we won 2 state championships in high school. We only lost 1 game. We were 65-1 and won 56 consecutive games. Our senior year, we were 34-0. And so I think having that success, you want to continue it. And I also worked in summer camps coaching little shavers, little scramblers, like 3rd, 4th, 5th graders at our high school coaches' camps. And I think having success and teaching them was really rewarding. And so that led to an interest in coaching at higher levels. And in college, I started writing letters to terrific coaches throughout the country that I had followed and had respect for. So basically became pen pals with Mike Krzyzewski at Duke, Bobby Knight at Indiana, Gene Cady at Purdue, Jerry Tarkanian at UNLV, Hank Egan, who coached here at the University of San Diego back in the day as well, Jim Brandenburg, who was at San Diego State at the time. And there were a number of coaches that weren't high profile, but... And
the coaches wrote back?
They did.
Wow.
Yep. So this was when I was at Chapman University, and I remember when their letters would come in to that, mail room, it was, something that was pretty inspiring. And I was just asking for advice, books I should read, steps I should take if I someday wanted to walk in the shoes that they, walked in as head coaches of Division I programs. And then I went and visited schools and spent time just watching kind of a, all access experience where I was able to watch film with coaches, at Indiana. I was able to sit on the bench and participate in timeouts and pregame, halftime, and postgame talks. And then I applied as a grad assistant to the schools that I had visited and the coaches that I had been in touch with. And I was also making those steps that they had suggested in terms of, career development and participating in summer camps at different universities. And, you get the opportunity to kind of naturally build a network. But most importantly, you're able to learn about the game and to see it firsthand in a real three-dimensional way where it comes to life. Clinics are important, camps are great, but to actually see coaches at the highest level, kind of like master classes, but in college coaching.
I think that's so important to note that, you're in college, and what does it hurt to write a letter, right? Or to send that email for, students that are in school today, if they're interested in a specific form of, what their next profession is going to look like, why not send the email? Why not just reach out? I mean, you had such great success, and that kind of helped guide, okay, these pros are telling me I should be doing X, Y, and Z, and it kind of helps your trajectory, right? I mean, it's so important just to kind of hustle and reach out, right?
Yeah, no doubt. First finding, the passion or that purpose, where do your interests lie, and where is your skill set, your ability is going to be a good fit in terms of different careers and different industries. And so, if you're interested in music, I guess back in the day, you'd be writing to Quincy Jones. Or if you're interested in film, right? Maybe it was Fellini or Cocteau or Truffaut or Spielberg or Lucas, right? You
Yeah.
want to find out how you can participate. And I think, we sometimes forget that these people that have had success at higher levels at one point were at a place where they just had dreams and aspirations. And so I think there's that ability to connect with young people and kind of, bring it full circle. And it's a way of giving back to show the gratitude and an expression of grace and thankfulness, for...
and share your knowledge with the next
yeah,
generation, right?
Exactly.
So you left Chapman University. What was your first gig like after college?
Well, Purdue University, one of the schools that I had visited, one of the schools that I had been exchanging letters with the head coach, who was Gene Cady, and I also had worked their summer camp. And at the end of that summer, Gene Cady called because one of his assistants had moved on to Kansas to join Roy Williams' staff. And everyone bumped up, and it allowed me an apprentice or an entry-level job as a graduate assistant at Purdue. And that was a real pivot. Yeah, that was maybe 38 years ago. It was 1988-89 season. And learning from Gene Cady, who was a Hall of Fame basketball coach. But at the time, Judd Heathcote was at Michigan State. Bobby Knight was at Indiana. Bill Foster was at Northwestern. Tom Davis was at Iowa. Clem Haskins was at Minnesota. Bill Frieder was at Michigan. I mean, it was kind of a golden era of basketball in the Big Ten Conference, and rabid fan bases. The environments, at these different arenas, and the rivalries were as good as it gets. And I think that was one of those critical junctures or intersections where I knew, in that first year as a graduate assistant, that this was something I really wanted to pursue.
And while you're doing that, what does life look like for you? Do you fly, you move there? I mean, I bet you don't know anybody. You're learning this craft. This has to be an exciting time, but how did you manage to do all of that, to make that transition?
Yeah, fortunately, we get to stages in our life, or we're provided opportunities because of other people that show some grace or open a door, believe in your abilities. They see some potential in you. And so for me, that was Gene Cady, who was really, other than my mother and father, probably Coach Cady and John Wooden were the most influential people in my coaching career and developing a coaching philosophy and really advocating for me, at a young age in those formative years. And you're busy as a graduate assistant because you're going to grad school, and you're overseeing study hall in terms of the players that are on the team. You're working on scouting. Coach Cady really wanted all of his assistant coaches to participate in every aspect of the basketball program. And it's one of the reasons I think his assistants have gone on to have success at the highest level as head coaches, because during their training, during their apprenticeship stage of their career, he expected you to really understand fully all the elements that go into building a basketball program, recruiting and scouting and player development, fundraising, interacting with the media, game preparation, on the floor teaching. All those aspects were developed or sharpened through those experiences at Purdue. And that's where I met John Wooden, who had been a 3-time All-American at Purdue, and he would come back and visit often. And he was the legendary UCLA coach that won 10 national championships in 12 years and spent 27 years as the head coach in Westwood, coaching the Bruins. So meeting Coach Wooden played a part in eventually being at UCLA, and was a bridge because Purdue and UCLA are both historical programs, and it was a chance to get back to the West Coast, closer to my family. Even though I'm from San Francisco, I was fully aware of the great tradition of the UCLA Bruins in basketball. So it was difficult to leave Purdue, but Coach Katie gave his blessing, and we thought we'd work together again down the line with me returning to Purdue as an assistant. That never happened because I became the head coach at UCLA, but we did rejoin when he was on my staff at St. John's University. I hired him as an assistant coach, and he was the equivalent of our Mr. Miyagi, our wise old owl, and like a grandfather or the chief of a tribe. And that was a really enjoyable experience, to bring that full circle, because he was retired at the time, and it gave him some purpose. And he was terrific at coaching the coaches as kind of an advisor, as a consultant, and so I treasure that time with Coach Katie.
Yeah, it all it's a small world in any field, right? And so you kind of get reconnected along the route. So you leave Purdue, you go to UCLA, and then you're promoted to head coach at some point. And how long are you there?
I was there 12 years total, from 1991 to 2003. So I was an assistant for 5 years and was blessed to participate in a national championship season. We were 32-1, won the national championship in 1995 up in Seattle. And that was another pivot and important, year for changing our lives. That's for everyone, all the players and the entire staff. When you win a national championship, it kind of puts you in a different trajectory in terms of your career path.
And then from there, you transitioned to St. John's, and you're head coach there as well?
Yes, and I had a period in between UCLA and St. John's where I worked in broadcasting. I was doing the ABC Game of the Week with Brent Musburger on Saturdays, and then was...
For college basketball?
For college basketball as an analyst, yeah. And then Tuesday and Thursday nights, we were calling games throughout the country on ESPN. And on Wednesday night, I was in the studio in Bristol, Connecticut. And that was a wonderful experience, developing a second career, working with some of the giants like Dan Schulman and Brent Musburger and Dave O'Brien and a number of other terrific broadcasters, Mark Jones, and just learning a different trade. And I always had an interest in broadcasting.
What made you decide to do that as well? Yeah.
Yeah, in high school, I wrote for the school newspaper, and I also wrote for the local newspaper as a stringer, covering sports outside of the basketball season, obviously. And in college, I studied broadcasting and film, television, and journalism and public relations. And so it did provide that opportunity to explore another interest, and that was the broadcasting field. And then in 2010, St. John's, provided this wonderful opportunity to coach the Johnnies in New York City and to coach games at Madison Square Garden, which was our home court. That's cool. In the Big East Conference, another terrific league. The Big Ten was wonderful, the Big East was wonderful, and the Pac-10, later becoming the Pac-12, of course. So, but I really enjoy my current experience in the West Coast Conference. They're all different levels of basketball, different regions in the country, different fan bases, but really grateful to have had the range of experiences. But broadcasting allowed me to take a deep breath. I was able to spend more time with my mother and father before they passed. And so the pace of broadcasting, there's more autonomy. You're really busy for 5 months, but then you have 7 months off.
Oh, wow.
And so there was time to travel, time to spend time with mom and dad.
That's great. And then during your time at St. John's, you were diagnosed with cancer, right? How did that impact all of that, your career trajectory and everything you were working towards? What sort of happened and how did it impact you?
Yeah, it definitely is an education. You, you know, prioritize things. You learn about what really matters most, and that was maybe the biggest game changer in terms of a perspective, and definitely heightens your compassion and your empathy because cancer, as we know, affects so many people and so many families. And so I think those would be two areas that really were game changing. It's the perspective of what matters most in life, and that without our health, right, we're in a position where nothing is possible.
It's true. It's something we take for granted, health.
It
right?
really is just the kind of essence of good health and being grateful for good health. And so, I missed a season recovering from the cancer, and that made me appreciate returning to coaching even more so, because you miss your players, you miss that camaraderie with the staff, and that esprit de corps, with your players. But yeah, it's just looking at life through a different lens, and it informs your sensibilities in a profound way. Some that are unconscious, right, and some that you're very aware of in the here and now.
How did it change your coaching, or did it at all? I mean, you said it kind of changed your perspective and it changed so much for your life. Did it change the way you coach players at all?
I think so. Back to compassion and maybe greater patience. Definitely in terms of injuries and allowing that time for recovery and healing, because everyone's body heals differently, and really emphasizing with our team, with our players, how important it is to be mindful of nutrition, and those recovery days are so important, and finding that balance between work and recovery. And there's the mental health aspect as well. And so you want your players who have a lot of responsibilities, are juggling their academics and the competitive environment that we're in, and the importance of performance. And so, how can they balance those things, and how, as a coaching staff and myself as a head coach, help them as they navigate the challenges of being a Division I athlete? And I think this is the most difficult era for participating in Division I athletics because of this revolutionary time that we're in the midst of. With the NIL, with the revenue share, players being compensated now, and then you add technology and social media and the degree of scrutiny that athletes operate under. It's a grand stage, and with that comes a lot of responsibility. But we also have to be mindful of young people's mental health and the journey that they're on, and how we can help them navigate the pressures and some of the potential pitfalls that are before them.
Yeah, being a part of basketball for so long and seeing these changes today, I mean, it just has to be this total 180 of, okay, now we have this. And I mean, first it was social media, that was one thing, but now the NIL, and it just seems like a lot it's a lot of change for someone.
Yeah, it happened so quickly, and here at the University of San Diego, really just in the past 6 months, right? We are now in the NIL, the Ole Foundation, and also the revenue share that we opted into, as everyone in our conference did. And so a real commitment from Jim Harris and our athletic director, Kim Yamasi, and our trustees, who understand how important athletics is in, the development of young people. And we're competitive, but yet with Catholic values, wanting to make sure we stay true to the mission and aims of this university. And that's an important, back to that word balance. Coach Wooden felt the two most important words in basketball were quickness and balance, and the two most important words in life were love and balance. And I think our university has tried to stay true to the mission and aims of this institution of developing a well-rounded person who eventually will graduate from here and hopefully be put on a trajectory in a career and in life that they can be proud of.
Yeah, so that brings us to USD, your journey here to the University of San Diego. You're now starting season 4. What has it been like being here at the University of San Diego? You've had such an awesome journey to end up here. What has it been like for you thus far?
Yeah, it's just felt like a good fit, from the beginning. I think being from the West Coast, my familiarity with West Coast basketball, familiarity with this conference, because of my father having played at the University of San Francisco, and I attended those games as a youngster, watching teams that had Bill Cartwright and Winford Boynes and James Hardy, and you have to Google all these names, but they had some terrific teams back in the day at the University of San Francisco. And so many coaches in this league that I'm familiar with and friends with. So when meeting President Harris, it just felt right when he talked about the vision for the program. And I knew about the history of the University of San Diego. I had worked summer basketball camps here back in the 80s when I was at Chapman University, when Hank Egan was the head coach and Mike Lagarza was an assistant, and Randy Bennett, who now is the head coach at St. Mary's, was an assistant coach on this staff. I knew Kyle Smith, who also worked at the University of San Diego as an assistant. Really all the head coaches. I mean, Jim Bravelli, who was the coach here that brought us to our first Division I NCAA tournament. He'd grown up in the Bay Area. He'd played at the University of San Francisco. I knew his daughter, Michelle, who played here at the University of San Diego, and his son, Mike Bravelli, who attended our family's basketball camps in the Bay Area. So Bernie Bickerstaff, John Cunningham, these were names in the history of basketball that I was aware of growing up in a basketball family, because my father really believed that it was important to know your history and to know the origins of things, whether that was music or literature or any kind of history, and in this case, basketball. The beautiful campus, the leadership, and to me, the possibilities were intriguing. We haven't been to an NCAA tournament, I think, in 18 years. And so to try and get back to the winner's circle, and with the great tradition we have, our location, the beauty of this school, a prestigious education, for me, it was just the right fit.
And what have you been most proud of from the students you've met here? When I talk to coaches, it seems like the student athletes, they're getting high GPAs, they're competing at really great levels, all of this combined. And then you talk to them and they're just such well-rounded, great individuals. Is kind of what I'm hearing from a lot of coaches. What has your team been like? I know it kind of changes through the years, but what have you found from the students here at USD, and how has that been helping in the teamwork to get to that NCAA championship level?
Yeah, it's, an opportunity to, be inspired. I think young people inspire us. And so to come to work on a daily basis in a college environment, right? I've always enjoyed that. At Purdue and UCLA and St. John's and now San Diego, there's a stimulating aspect. It's, intoxicating to be on a campus where they're trailblazers in different respects, right? Not just athletics. And so I feel at home when I'm on a college campus, I think because my father taught at the University of California, Cal Berkeley, he taught at San Francisco State, he taught at Dominican College, at the College of Marin, he taught on Monday nights at San Quentin with the inmates, the prisoners there. And so teaching is kind of a theme with my mother and father, and to be able to kind of carry that aspect forward with our family is really precious. The relationships with student athletes is front and center in terms of why I coach and why I teach, developing those relationships. My players that I coached at UCLA are now in their late 40s and early 50s. And the players at St. John's are now in their early to mid 30s. And now I'm working with 18 to 22-year-olds at the University of San Diego. And so that element, there's something special. It's precious. It's unique that, the student athletes keep us young as teachers and coaches. And so this is just an elite university of high achievers. And so it's a very competitive environment, and that's a good thing. We're proud that our team has had over a 3.0, a cumulative GPA of over 3.0 for the last 5 semesters. And the one that we weren't, I think we were 2.97. So we were just short of having 5 consecutive semesters of a team GPA cumulatively of over 3.0. So we want to see our players graduate. We want them to have that foundation for life after sport, for life after basketball. And I'm a big believer that sport in its purest form is a metaphor for life, and that we learn important values and virtues through competitive sports that we can carry beyond sport for the rest of our life.
Yeah. And so with season 4 here that you've been here, what are you looking forward to? What are some of your strategies to take your team to the next level? What are you looking at this year? What can people expect?
Yeah, it's a great question because we have 14 new players, and they're from 6 different countries, 4 different continents. And so that melting pot is, rich with opportunities to learn from one another. And that's another aspect of what I really enjoy about coaching, and how quickly this group can build cohesion and chemistry. Those are kind of intangible elements, but we, similar to musicians, I always use the parallel to the more you practice and the more you rehearse together, the better the music is. And it's the same in sport. The more time you get to rehearse and get a better feel for one another and how to help one another play to your strengths, and how to offset maybe some of the vulnerabilities that maybe a certain individual player has, but we need the strengths that he brings. And there's that old phrase that, don't let what someone can't do interfere with what they can do. And that was one of Coach Wooden's favorite phrases. And with teaching and coaching and parenting, we all have different gifts. And so we're trying to align the gifts of these 14 new players with our 6 returners, 20 total on our team, and be able to field a competitive team that can represent this university in a first-class manner and win games so we can get to a postseason, because that's the objective. And so we want to be that group that has a legacy for returning us to the winner's circle, because it's been a period of time now since that's happened.
Wonderful. Well, to kind of wrap up, I feel like you've mentioned so many names and so many mentors that have helped you along the way. Can you think of any advice that you've been given along the journey that is sort of maybe your mantra this season, or something you're thinking about, or just something that helps you in your coaching from all these mentors you've had in your past?
Yeah, it really is difficult because there were so many lessons learned that inform your teaching and coaching style moving forward, and you're drawing from all those previous experiences, things I learned from my mother and father, and then those mentors that I had along the way, from Gene Cady to Jim Herrick to Coach Wooden, and coaches that were just gracious with their time, that allowed me to come in and visit their programs at Indiana and UNLV and here at the University of San Diego back in the day. But, there are certain old adages, oldies but goodies, and phrases that I think are timeless, like, certain passages or scripture, things that we learn from children's books. And one is, people don't care how much you know until they feel, how much you care. And that element, I think, is really important. It's establishing trust. It's establishing rapport. Your players have to know you have their best interest at heart. They have to feel that authenticity and genuineness through your actions and deeds, and the consistency in the manner that you teach. And so I was fortunate to have great models and mentors. And I think the balance, again, of wanting to win, but also understanding these important lessons and values of sportsmanship, of, being humble in victory, staying grounded after a win, being gracious in defeat, in terms of sportsmanship and tipping the hat to the opponent, and then utilizing that setback as fire, as fuel to get better. When you have a loss, there's a report card. And basically, it informs a better way forward, just like life itself. When you have adversity, when you have setbacks, there are always silver linings. And again, back to that prism or lens that you look at the world through. And leading young people, I think that's important because how young people navigate discouragement, which is inevitable, and disappointment, which is inevitable, but you don't want them to give up the hope and the dream and the aspirations, and that we often grow more through setbacks and adversity and losses. And I know that's what it's been like for me in my life, and you're trying to share those lessons as my parents did with me, as my mentors did with me, and now I have the opportunity to try and share those lessons with the young people. And we've had some difficult stretches, in terms of losing games and being challenged in that respect, but I'm proud of the way our players have responded and have continued to forge ahead, and the competitive spirit they bring every day to practice, and their eagerness, their earnest in terms of wanting to get better and wanting to elevate our program. And that's what we do every day on a daily basis, is focus in on those things. Sometimes the results come when you'd like them to, and other times they don't. Sometimes there's that delayed element, and that's when it really becomes a challenge. But I like this group, and I think our future is bright.
I think all those lessons you shared are something we can all use, whether we're on a basketball court or not. So, Coach Lavin, thanks so much for being with us and sharing all that.
It was a pleasure to be here. I look forward to doing it again sometime down the line. And we got to get you to some games.
Yeah, that sounds great. All of us need to go out and cheer on our Toreros. So
absolutely.
Thanks for being with us. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe to catch our next one.